All right, good afternoon. My name is Kendra Britt. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Communications here at the California Department of Education. Thank you for joining us for our first ever virtual media check-in. Our superintendent regularly does these media check-ins, so we welcome you. For those that this is your first one, for all of us, this is our first virtual one. The format is pretty simple. It will last 30 minutes. There will be opening remarks from our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, as well as remarks from our Chief Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Stephanie Gregson, and Deputy Superintendent Lisa Constancio. After that, we will have a question and answer period. We have received some of your questions, but you are able to submit those at any time through the Zoom format under the Q&A portion in the Zoom application. So without further ado, let's get started. Please join me in welcoming our State Superintendent, Tony Thurman.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you for joining us today for this media check-in. Thank you for those who are also following us on Facebook Live. I want to thank California students and parents, teachers, administrators, all who are coming together to help us to get through these most challenging and unprecedented times. By my count, this is week 3 that many of our school campuses have been closed to students due to the impacts of COVID-19 and our efforts to keep our kids safe and to make sure that we are maximizing social distancing. As always, I want to commend our students and our teachers and our parents and our education leaders for their resolve and their resiliency. We have much to do, but we will continue to do it together. We can do more together to help our students. As we are in week 3, I'd like to talk about some of the things that the California Department of Education has done to this point. Since the governor's executive order was announced that guaranteed that school districts would receive full funding by using distance learning, the California Department of Education has provided guidance to help school districts to answer the many questions that have come up. This guidance has included what to do about meals, and you'll hear today that some 850 some school districts out of 1,000 are providing meals to students, typically in grab-and-go fashion. But there's been guidance on meals. There's been guidance about how to deliver special education. There's been guidance about distance learning and how we can accomplish our goals of educating kids. And when I say distance learning, I simply mean that the teacher and the student are in different locations. Sometimes that happens through an online way, and other times that happens through packets that students receive. The California Department of Education, the State Board of Education, the Governor's Office, and many stakeholders have worked on a regular basis to provide this guidance and to share it with the field and to share it with educators, and I'm grateful for their work. As many of you know, on yesterday, I issued a letter to county superintendents about the status of our current school campuses. In that letter, I give a recommendation and urge our school districts to continue to treat our campuses as unsafe for students to be on campus and to prepare for the school year and the remainder of the school year as if we need to do all of that through distance learning. Quite frankly, we have not received any indication of when it will be safe for our students to return to campus. And so out of an abundance of caution, we are advising all of our school districts to use distance learning as the way to educate our kids while keeping them safe. To help in this way, we have given training opportunities and technology to support our districts. We're respecting that the decision as to whether or not a campus will reopen is one that ultimately is made at the local school district level. School boards will continue to make those decisions. But we are encouraging all of our school districts to focus on distance learning as the way to safely educate our kids until we hear more about when it will be safe to return to our campus. Throughout this media check-in, you'll hear from some of the staff at the Department of Education who will let you know the work that has been done to ensure that our kids can graduate. Sadly, many of them won't be able to experience a graduation ceremony in May or June because of the needs for distance learning, but they will be able to graduate and they will have the opportunity for post-secondary opportunities. Some districts are pursuing, social distance graduation ceremonies. Some are, virtual ceremonies. Some are planning ceremonies to take place when we receive the all clear, whenever that might be. But for now, we want our students to know that we hear you, we support you, and we will support your ability to graduate and to go on to post-secondary education. As I mentioned, we've been working with our school districts to provide technology. We've surveyed nearly every district in our state to hear what their technological gaps are. Simply put, to say how many of your students do not have a device at home, and to tell us about the internet barriers and access barriers that a district might experience. We are able to work with many leaders in philanthropy who are helping us to provide computers and mobile hotspot devices to ensure that our students will have access to technology. We're providing training to support our teachers and educators. On tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we'll be providing a webinar that is focused on how to provide special education through distance learning. I'd like to thank all those who are helping to put it together, our special education workforce, the California Teachers Association, the staff at the California Department of Education and the State Board of Education for coming forward to help us answer a question that's not been answered in this way before. How do we deliver special education through distance learning? More than 5,000 people have signed up, mostly educators, to hear about best practices, about lesson plans, about modules for how we deliver special education. And we will continue to provide webinars to support the field. Next week, we will also be providing a webinar for educators on how to provide distance learning. More details on that will follow. We continue to talk to all of our school districts about safety, about how we can ensure that the students who are receiving meals at what amounts to more than 5,000 sites can get their grab-and-go meals. You'll hear a little bit about funding that's been provided from the state legislature today to help make those meals happen. We know that we have to keep working in real time to make sure our students are safe, that they get a great education. While our campuses are closed to our students, we want to be clear, school is not closed. School is still in session, and we've had to shift to doing distance learning as the way that we deliver education. We know it is a tall order. We know it is a challenge. We know that we're experiencing a health challenge that we have not seen before. But what's happening with COVID-19 is a pandemic, which means a worldwide health crisis. We have to take every precaution, and out of an abundance of caution, the best thing we can do to keep our kids safe is to use distance learning to educate them. It's a tall order. As it relates to educating our kids, we will rise to the challenge. We'll do more together, and we will support all of our California kids. We'll take questions in a few minutes, but I want to invite a few additional staff at the department to come up to give some updates. First, you'll hear from the Chief Deputy Superintendent at the California Department of Education, Dr. Stephanie Gregson.
Thank you, Superintendent Thurman. Thank you, Superintendent Thurman. So I know this is a big question on everyone's mind around how are we making sure that our juniors and even our sophomores and our seniors don't have any harm come to them during this time of COVID-19 as they look towards college admissions. So over the past week, we have been working with the State Board of Education, the California State University, the University of California, California Community Colleges, and independent nonprofit colleges and universities on how to ensure that there's no harm coming to our students as they look towards their college pathways. The higher education community has offered assurances regarding the acceptance of credit, no credit grades in lieu of letter grades for A to G high school courses completed in the winter, spring, summer of 2020. They have provide assurances of having flexibility associated with the receipt of final official transcripts and confirmation of admission offers, including deferments of deposits or fees where needed. They are offering flexibility and support for students currently enrolled in dual enrollment course offerings. And for community college students seeking to transfer to a four-year university, there's acceptance of credit, no credit in lieu of letter grades in the Golden 4 and general education prerequisite courses completed at a community college in winter, spring, summer of 2020. And they are also offering reevaluation of the financial needs as well as the eligibility for federal and college financial aid for families whose circumstances have changed during this time. You can see more specific guidance when we post our grading and graduation requirements later today. We will be sending out a press release once we have that guidance posted. And with that, I'm going to ask our Deputy Superintendent, Lisa Constancio, to come and speak to some money that may be coming out.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good afternoon, everyone. The superintendent already alluded to this, but today we will be releasing a press release about the $100 million that was allocated in SB 117 as a part of the emergency legislation. So there will be a press release coming out today that includes a list of LEAs, school districts, county offices of education, and charter schools as well, that will have the direct allocated amount. So we will be releasing that today with a link that will go directly to our webpage. We have on the CDE side, we have apportioned these funds. At this point, we are anticipating that the state controller's office will be releasing the funds to the county treasurer's offices on Monday, April 6th. So please stay tuned for that. Also, to let everyone know that the letter and the press release will identify the areas in which these funds can be used. As superintendent just spoke to, the school buildings themselves are closed, but school is still in session. But these funds can be used for personal protective equipment. They can be used for nutrition services and the ability for you to continue to provide meals. They can be used for the cleaning of school facilities, and then they can also be used for tools needed for distance learning. So please let us know here at CDE if you have any questions about those. You'll have a direct email link from the press release today. And as I mentioned, any questions, please feel free to contact us, and you can reach us directly on the COVID-19 at cde.ca.gov email. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa and Stephanie. On that last note, these resources for distance learning, for personal protective equipment are very important. And for the people who are delivering meals, who are helping to keep our schools clean and sanitized. And on that note, I want to acknowledge that today we also announced a very important accord between our labor unions and our management associations in our school districts. They've worked together to reach a framework that at the state level that can help to guide conversations at the local districts to make sure that everyone is working together to support our students. I want to call out in particular a number of the organizations that have worked for the last few weeks, putting in many hours to help make this happen. We had representatives from the California Federation of Teachers, the California School Employees Association, the Service Employees Union International, AFSCME. We also had a representative from the California Labor Federation on representing management. In these meetings, we want to thank the California Association of School Administrators for their work with many of our labor partners, as well as our County Association of County Superintendents, the California School Boards Association, and also support from our school business officials. Having said all that, again, we want to thank all the folks who are coming together, the incredible team at schools that are delivering these meals, our nutrition services team at the California Department of Education, who are supporting these districts every single day, working to get waivers on how we can have more flexibility to serve these meals. I'd like to stop there and see if there are any questions that we can answer at this time.
First question we have, it says, due to the governor's briefing today, schools will not reopen, but is this an order for all school districts to follow?
The question is about the governor's statements about our school campuses. And to be clear, the decision as to whether or not school districts will reopen their campuses to students is one that is a local controlled decision. It is up to the school board of that district to make those decisions. Having said that, the governor has on many occasions stated that it is his belief that we are not likely to find ourselves in a position where students can safely return to campus before the end of the school year. That is based on comments that have been made by public health officials and others who have said that it is simply not likely for us to have the all clear for students to return. And so school districts have not been provided a directive, but they've been provided with the information of what is likely to occur. And the California Department of Education has issued a letter to superintendents letting them know that we believe that we should focus on distance learning the rest of the way for this school year. That school is not closed, our campuses are closed, but we are still providing education to our students through distance learning.
Next question, what is the state doing beyond working with school districts to implement distance learning? Will there be new state guidelines that will be put in place, any direct orders, any deadlines for districts to put plans in place?
You know, on the questions of distance learning, the state has been deeply involved all the way from the beginning of this process with the governor's executive order that essentially created the flexibility for school districts to be able to use distance learning, essentially giving the flexibility to make a change to the calendar so that we can use distance learning to finish out the school year without having to extend any time this year. There is a pathway for us to move forward for ensuring that all of our students are able to get education through distance learning. And quite frankly, we're working directly with our school districts to survey their needs for technology. We have some partners in philanthropy who are making that available. Today, a partnership with Google was announced that is allowing for many communities to have access to mobile hotspot devices where internet access does not currently exist. We are literally working with our 1,000 school districts to move personal devices for our students that don't have them to support them. And so the state has made it possible for distance learning through the executive orders, through funding, through guidance that the California Department of Education has issued in consultation with the state board to show the way on how to do it. And as I mentioned, there will be webinars and training to support our educators in doing this starting tomorrow. And we invite those of you who are following on Facebook Live to join us on the California Department of Education Facebook page to be a part of tomorrow's webinar on how to support distance learning in special education.
Next question, we've received some calls from viewers saying their school districts are not planning on extending their closures. Has the California Department of Education received pushback from any school districts? And if so, what is your response to the pushback?
You know, this again is a decision that every school district in the state is authorized and legally can make, and those districts will make those decisions. I can tell you that we are having numerous conversations with superintendents at the county level and district level who are trying to determine what is in the best interest of their school, and they're being very thoughtful about that. They're having broad conversations across districts in each of the counties. And so what I expect is that those conversations will continue and that in the days to come, we will have clarity about what school districts are doing. I would tell you that I believe that most of our districts want to work together, want to move together to do the things that make the most sense. They're having conversations, they're working in consultation with their county health officers to make the best decisions that they can. And the California Department of Education will support them and continue to offer guidance to help them in making their decisions.
Do you have any idea when districts can expect their portion of the $1.6 billion allotted in federal assistance?
You know, we're grateful that the legislature and the governor, made a total of $1 billion available before the legislature went on recess to be able to address any emergency. We know that there are now efforts underway to allocate some of those dollars to make sure that distance learning can happen, to make sure that those who work on our campuses have access to safety equipment and personal protective equipment. Literally, as we speak, the staff at the California Department of Education are helping to make those allocations go and get them to each of our 1,000 school districts. And so the process is underway, and we expect that school districts will be in receipt of those dollars imminently.
Low-income neighborhoods that have schools but not access to the necessary technology for distance learning or can't afford a laptop, in regards to that, how will the academic standing of those students be impacted, and what are you doing to support those students?
It's a true statement that California has had challenges for years in closing its digital divide. And sadly, there are students in the state who do not have access to broadband and haven't for years. And there are some infrastructure challenges that will prevent that from happening immediately. But I want our followers and viewers to know that we are doing everything humanly possible to address those barriers, starting with assessing how many school districts have students who do not have access to a device at home. And literally, because of the support of charitable partners, we are in a position to provide devices to thousands of students at no cost to them, at no cost to their district. A number of internet service providers have come forward to offer free internet to many of our students, and we are working with those communities that have historically had barriers. Some of these communities have been trying to get internet for over 8 years. We are literally working with these communities to see what we can do immediately, in some cases using mobile hotspot devices, but also working with the PUC and other entities to see how we continue to move access for our students. Now, there are some students who are in areas where they may not be able to take advantage of online education. And in those cases, distance learning will still happen. It just means that those teachers and those students will be relying on packets of information that provide instruction and guidance to those students for periods of time as to what they should do. I do want to also acknowledge that we've had a number of our universities in California that have come forward to offer free online systems and platforms that they can use to help our students, in particular our seniors, to make sure that they can take A to G courses and the courses that they need to be prepared for graduation and post-secondary education. And we will continue to work to make sure that all of our schools have the resources that we have available to help them with distance learning.
Will CDE request to waive portions of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act? If so, which parts? In general, how do you respond to concerns that school districts may face lawsuits over confusion about their special education obligations?
You know, it's clear that how you deliver special education is a topic that is on everyone's mind. And how do you do that from a distance learning environment? That has not been our traditional way in doing it. And I'm acknowledging up front that there may be challenges in doing that. Having said that, we are not prepared to give up on any of our students, and certainly not students with disabilities in California. It is the reason why we're hosting tomorrow's webinar, so that we can provide support, guidance, and specific and practical examples to educators on how to deliver special education. And I want to give a shout out to all those special education teachers who have been doing this for the last 3 weeks, who have used Zoom and Google Hangouts and have used all kinds of media to work with their students, to work with their families. They've even found ways to conduct IEP meetings using Zoom and other products where they can work with our families. Our teachers have called parents, they've worked with parents, they've given support and examples to parents on ways to help them. And so many of our school districts have already put on their website their plans for ensuring that services for students with disabilities will continue. Everything from what we do in terms of activities to making sure that our students can get access to important support services like speech therapy. And so we know that this can be done. We're working on how to do it. We're looking forward to tomorrow's webinar with more than 5,000 educators who've already signed up to be a part of that webinar. We're working with the federal government, who has said that we have maximum flexibility as it relates to delivering special education through distance learning. Let me make that clear. The federal government, through the U.S. Department of Education, has said that districts are in fact able, allowed, and encouraged to provide special education through distance learning, given the circumstances that we face from COVID-19. And so we know that it is something new, but we're working together. And I want to thank all those teachers who've already sent in ideas, who've already sent in innovations, who've already said, we know how to do this. We're going to be part of the California way. We're going to help to provide this for our students. I'm grateful to all of our educators for what you've already been doing. We know you miss your kids. We know you want to see them in person, but we thank you for keeping them safe and ensuring that they're still getting a great education.
Are there any special considerations or plans being given to summer school instruction to make up for time lost?
To be clear, we've not waded into a conversation about summer school because this year is not over. And while our campuses are closed, we want it to be clear, school is still in session. California, unlike some states that have said there will be no education, California has said we're not ready to give up on our students. We know that there are challenges that we must mount, but we think we owe it to every one of our students to give them everything that we have as it relates to getting an education through distance learning. The state has given us the pathway to make this happen by providing full funding to our school districts so that all of our school staff can be paid, by providing additional resources to support distance learning and to keep our staff at our schools safe. This is California showing that there is a pathway to get this done. And so for that reason, we're not focusing on the summer, we're focusing on right now. And how do we make sure that for now, in our work together, that we provide a quality education to our students the rest of the school year.
Following up on what Governor Newsom said earlier about a partnership with Google to create internet hotspots and distributing Chromebooks to students who need them, is there any idea if there will be enough Chromebooks or internet access for all students who need them?
You know, as I mentioned, we've surveyed nearly 1,000 school districts to find out how many devices they need. We want to thank Google and others, literally so many folks who've come forward, tech companies and other partnerships to support health, who've come forward to offer equipment, donations. Google has offered to help secure donations. And so maybe it's the case that not every single student will have a Chromebook, but because of these charitable partnerships, we can provide a device for as many students as our resources will allow. And we're working on that. We're going to continue to work on that until we serve everyone that we can. We'll take one or two more questions before we wrap.
Are school buses equipped with Wi-Fi hotspots a tool to use to get students with no or limited internet access?
It is a strategy that has been discussed, that we can use our mobile hotspot devices on school buses to provide internet access in some communities. That is a strategy that is currently being pursued in some communities and other places. Literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of mobile hotspot devices are being provided, personal hotspot devices, and we'll continue to explore the combination of all of these methods to address any of the internet barriers that exist.
We just have one more question here. How can school districts enforce that their students are actually participating in school? And if they are not, will they fail out and be held back if they don't participate for the remainder of the school year?
Again, this is a question for school districts themselves. Ultimately, they come up with the grading policies. They are in charge of making decisions for attendance and things of that nature. Recognizing the challenges that all Californians and all people in this country are dealing with, school districts are providing maximum flexibility for our students. Now, school district staff and teachers and others, they reach out every single day to our students to check in. But we know that sometimes there are barriers and challenges, and we're working to get mental health providers in place to support many of our students who need support and our families who need support. And so this is a time when we have to provide maximum flexibility. Our school districts are saying that they want to provide pass, not pass structures and criteria for how our students get educated. They get that right now what's more important is that students can get the mastery of the concept, but make sure that we create no barrier, no impediment to their ability to learn and to graduate. We will be as flexible as we can to support every single student. We know that we have many, many challenges that we face. This is the biggest challenge that we've seen for most of us in our lifetime. And we have to work together to get through this. I believe that we are stronger together, we can do more together, and we will do more together for California's 6 million students. Thank you for now.
You can email communications@cde.ca.gov. Thank you so much.
If you're subscribed to the channel already, you might want to check and make sure you're still subscribed so you're notified whenever a new video goes live. And subscribe if you're new. Until next time, this is the gardening snail of Livingston, California, because not every critter is hiding under a rock.